Welcome to the Immigration Report. We have a lot to talk about today. A judge just blocked the Trump administration from deporting over 350,000 Haitian migrants. ICE and Border Patrol agents are now required to wear body cams while they're operating. And a new poll just dropped that shows that a majority of Americans still support ICE, still support mass deportations, and a lot more that we're going to get into throughout this video. So you don't want to miss this one. Also, if you want daily immigration updates without the bias, please consider subscribing. Let us get into it, starting with this ruling.
Breaking news involving temporary protected status in the U.S. for hundreds of thousands of Haitians.
A federal judge has blocked the Trump administration from ending TPS for now. Let's get straight out now to Local 10's Terrell Fournay live in North Miami Beach with the details tonight. Terrell.
Yeah, this news coming down just within the past 90 minutes or so. This federal judge in the D.C. metro area issuing a stay that potentially just blocks this from happening. So let's go to a snippet of what this federal judge mentioned in this stay. This federal judge says, quote, during the stay, the termination shall be null, void, and of no legal effect. The termination, therefore, does not affect the protections and benefits previously conferred by the TPS designation.
So if you didn't know, Haiti is consumed by political violence and gang violence, and the country right now is being ruled by gangs, and a whole bunch of migrants migrated to the U.S. and got temporary protected status. A few months ago, the Trump administration moved to end that TPS, that temporary protected status, for almost 350,000 Haitian migrants. And ICE was supposed to go into Springfield, Ohio, and start their deportation operations, and Miami, Florida as well. That TPS was supposed to end on February 3rd, and now a judge just moved to block that ending of that TPS. And this has come as good news for the Haitian population, for the Haitian migrants. While we're on the topic of legal setbacks for the Trump administration and the State Department is being sued by a group of organizations in regards to a move the Trump administration made to block immigration from 75 countries. Let us take a look at that reporting.
The Trump administration is facing another major legal hurdle as civil rights groups move to block a sweeping immigration freeze with a lawsuit claiming the government is illegally dismantling decades of established law. A group of civil rights organizations, including the National Immigration Law Center and Legal Aid Society, sued the U.S. State Department in federal court in Manhattan on Monday. The groups want to block a policy that suspended immigrant visas for citizens from 75 countries on January 21st, arguing it undermines long-standing immigration law and is based on what it calls a false claim that nationals from those countries are likely to become public charges by relying on welfare.
So while I'm pro-legal immigration, I do not understand how this is a civil rights issue. It's not like the Trump administration is preventing American citizens from coming or going to these different countries. What he's doing is essentially taking a pause, an immigration pause on these countries, saying, hey, we need to figure out who we're letting into this country, because at the end of the day, the U.S. has its own sovereignty. It has its own borders, and borders need to be respected. So I do not understand what they're suing for. And here we have an article by the New York Times that's titled, Trump administration sued over ban on immigration from 75 countries. A group of American citizens, immigration nonprofits, and legal organizations on Monday sued Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the State Department, asking a judge to block a visa ban that they said attempted to eviscerate decades of settled immigration law. The suit, filed in Manhattan federal court, is the first major attempt to stop the State Department policy announced and implemented last month that suspended the approval of visas for people from 75 countries. More than 85% of the countries are non-European and have significant non-white populations. I do not understand how race made it into this article. So is it a race issue they're suing on behalf of, or is it a civil rights? Just let me know in the comments what you think. And now let us move on to our next story, which is huge. ICE and Border Patrol agents are now required to wear body cameras. Let us take a look at this reporting and let us talk about it.
Also, some big news coming in just recently about the Department of Homeland Security as Kristi Noem announcing that body cams will be worn by all ICE and Border Patrol agents effective immediately. President Trump there also mentioning that here in the Oval Office. This is the post on social media from Kristi Noem saying, I just spoke with Border Czar Tom Homan, the ICE director, the Border Patrol Commissioner, and effective immediately, we are deploying body cameras to every officer in the field in Minneapolis. As funding is available, the body camera program will be expanded nationwide. We will rapidly acquire and deploy body cameras to DHS law enforcement across the country, the most transparent administration in American history. Thank you.
So after all the chaos in Minneapolis and the shooting of Alex Freddie, Democrats, they threatened to shut down the government over the funding of DHS and ICE. So what the Republicans, they did, they made a deal with the Democrats. They said, you know what we can do? Instead of shutting down the entire government, we can fund the government, but fund it partially. Let's separate the funding of ICE and DHS and fund the rest of the government. Let's debate what we should do in terms of funding DHS and ICE. And they agreed to that deal. So now the Democrats, they have major demands in regards to reforming ICE and reforming DHS if they're going to vote to fund DHS. And they had three requirements. One of those requirements are agents need to unmask. They need to not wear a mask. The second requirement is that agents need to end roving patrols. And we saw that ended once Trump reassigned Greg Bovino from Minneapolis to California. So Greg Bovino was the leader of that roving patrol. And the third demand that the Democrats, they said, hey, all ICE and Border Patrol agents need to wear body cam. And this is Kristi Noem's move to get ahead of that and give all ICE and Border Patrol agents body cameras to wear. So this is huge news. And once that happened, we see the Democrats there now essentially shifting the goalposts because two of those requirements are essentially met. Let us take a look at this.
We know some of these demands are going to be tricky, Connell, because Democrats are saying they want to see no more masks on ICE agents. They want to see identification badges on every one of them. Some Democrats are saying it's going to be necessary to pull out all of the ICE agents, all of the Border Protection agents out of Minneapolis and other places. Some are saying no more warrants that come from the administration, but instead they need judicial warrants from a judge before ICE continues to do raids. And so there's some disagreement fundamentally on how far each side wants to go.
Something that I just failed to mention. So ICE has been funded through 2029. So this fight is pointless for the Democrats. And now because the Trump administration, they're willing to work with the Democrats and give in to some of their demands, they're now shifting the goalposts. What they want to do, they're talking about withdrawing ICE from every major city, which is not even possible. That's not negotiating in good faith, because eventually what they want a political fight for the midterms. And that is why you hear them talking about defunding ICE and all these different things. And here is Speaker Jeffries on that matter.
And Republican policies on immigration enforcement have been a complete and total failure. Taxpayer dollars should not be spent to brutalize and kill American citizens. Taxpayer dollars should be spent to make life more affordable.
And in my opinion, taxpayer dollars should be spent on the American citizens and not on undocumented individuals. And here is Byron Donalds responding to Hakeem Jeffries.
Look, let me be very clear. Number one, Leader Jeffries sounds like a clown right now as far as I'm concerned. What he's saying is actually making no sense. The truth of the matter is that ICE has been trying to do their job. And if it wasn't for Democrat leaders who were fomenting an organized protest organization that was taking pictures of these officers, trying to dox these officers, trying to go after their families, all these things have occurred, then they wouldn't have to cover their faces to protect their identity and to protect their families.
And Byron Donalds brought up a good point. Is it fair for us to unmask these federal agents who are literally out there trying to do a job and put their family at risk? And here's the Vice President, J.D. Vance, responding to these demands.
The very people who keep us safe ought to be honored and protected and praised by Democrats and Republicans alike. It is time to stop the rhetorical assault on law enforcement. Because here's what happens. Because here's what happens when Democrats like Gavin Newsom did say that these people are part of an authoritarian government. When the left-wing media lies about what they're doing, when they lie about who they're arresting, when they lie about the actual job of law enforcement, what they're doing is encouraging crazy people to go and commit violence. You don't have to agree with my immigration policies. You don't have to agree with Donald Trump's immigration policies.
So let me start by saying I do not agree with everything the Trump administration do, especially when it comes to immigration. But what I care about the well-being and the safety of people within my community. I do not want to see American citizens be taken advantage of or being put at risk because the Democrats, they want to push a rhetoric, push an agenda to win an election. So now let us move on to our next story, which takes us to a new poll that was released that shows us how the American people think in regards to immigration and recent immigration policies. So we have an article here that's titled, New Poll Shows Democrats Are In For a Rude Awakening on Immigration. It seemed a little bit right-leaning, the title itself, but that doesn't matter. We're just going to look at the numbers. It starts off by saying a new poll released by the firm Signal has shown that Trump's deportation agenda continues to grow more popular with the American people in spite of the best efforts of Democrats and the media to malign the administration. And here we have Caroline Levitt that essentially retweeted the poll with a snippet of some of the numbers. And the numbers that we have basically highlights that 73% of Americans say coming to America is illegal and is breaking the law. 61% of Americans support deporting illegals. 58% of Americans oppose defunding ICE, regardless of the fact that we just saw the Democrats, they want to put up this fight of defunding ICE, but 58% of Americans, a majority of Americans, oppose that agenda. And 54% of Americans support ICE enforcing our immigration laws, despite the fact that ICE is under extreme scrutiny these days. And here we have another research that was done by the Pew Research Center that says migrant encounters at the U.S.-Mexico border are at their lowest level in more than 50 years. And the article went on to say U.S. Border Patrol encounters with migrants crossing into the United States from Mexico have fallen to their lowest level in more than 50 years, according to a Pew Research Center analysis of statistics from the federal government. The Border Patrol recorded over 230,000 encounters with migrants at the U.S.-Mexico border in the 2025 fiscal year, which began in October of 2024 and ended in September of 2025. That was down from more than 1.5 million encounters in fiscal year 2024, more than 2 million in fiscal year 2023, and a record of more than 2.2 million in fiscal year 2022. The 2025 total was the lowest in any fiscal year since 1970, according to historical data from the Border Patrol. And here we have a bar graph that shows encounters at the borders. And as you can see, during Biden's years, it was some of the highest ever recorded. And in 2025, it's all the way down. So this is good news. And as a result, we have another article that says that immigration enforcement makes America more affordable. I'm not going to go through the entire article, but basically what it states that fewer illegal aliens equals higher wages, and border control equals rent control, which makes a lot more sense because when you have less people, you have more housing to go around for the American citizen. And now let us move on to our next story, which takes us to Texas. There was a measles outbreak at an ICE facility. Let us take a look.
Measles cases have been reported at a Texas immigration facility. 2 detainees tested positive at a facility in Dilley, which is southwest of San Antonio. The Department of Homeland Security says those detainees were immediately quarantined to prevent further spread. Just days ago, there was a confirmed measles case at an Arizona immigration facility.
So hopefully they get this under control and try to protect people because at the end of the day, immigration enforcement, you want to keep detainees safe and the larger population safe as well. Now let us move on to our next segment, which takes a look at how Democrats, they're trying to resist the Trump's administration immigration enforcement. And in Minneapolis, we have people setting up roadblocks. Let us take a look. And these are people that are setting up roadblocks in the middle of the street, checking IDs, checking people, making sure they're not ICE. In America, this is going on in America, which is wild, in my opinion. Aside from protesters blocking the streets, we have Kathy Hochul, which is the governor of New York, on her plan to resist the Trump administration. Take a look.
But we're prepared for whatever happens. But I hope Donald Trump sees that this is a community that he has his own investments in. He has buildings here. He has properties. He has a lot of friends in New York City. And Jessica Tisch, and working with NYPD and state police cooperating, we are all doing just fine. We do not need a surge. But there are signs that they're trying to build a large detention center just 45 miles outside the city. So that's got to get through a lot of state reviews. Let me just say that. I'm going to be looking to see, is it on wetlands? Is there zoning involved? Is there, maybe is there some, snails that are environmentally sensitive?
DEP will be busy.
So I just want, that's a warning sign I'm concerned about, but I think they know that if you come after New York City, you will destabilize the economic engine of the country. You do not want to go there.
Well, in my opinion, I think she's a little bit worried, and we'll see how this plays out when the Trump administration decides to send ICE and Border Patrol to New York City to enforce the nation's immigration laws. And that brings us to the end of today's immigration report. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I appreciate you for watching all the way to the end. Also, please consider commenting, sharing, subscribing. Thank you.